Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Daria, and since I finished this sketchbook, this is a sketchbook tour of my mini sketchbook. So without further ado, let's get started. So I began this sketchbook in March of 2023 and ended it in July of 2024, so a little over a year. On the right side, I decided to do a little sketch of some brand new pens that I got from Staples. And then this is sort of like a cover page that I did for my sketchbook. I actually did this much later than when I started it. But then moving on, this is the first official page that I started in my sketchbook. On to the next page. Again, some more eye sketches and portrait sketches, just using some ballpoint pen and graphite pencil. This is a drawing of my dad that I just decided to glue in my sketchbook. Here I was practicing with my ballpoint pen to try and use the primary colors to make a skin tone. These sketches I also did on the bus on the way to Carleton University. There was a program happening for youth, and yeah, I just let my imagination spill on the paper, and this was the result. For this next page, one of my dogs actually chewed up a highlighter of mine, but it ended up having like a really cool sort of airbrush effect. So I was able to use it to my advantage, and I got some really cool portraits out of it. Then on this side of the page, I tested out a new 0.5mm ballpoint pen that I got, and it worked really well. Here I was experimenting again with my ballpoint pen, and I think I had seen one of Kim Jong-gi's sketchbook tours, and I absolutely fell in love with his style, and I just had to draw some perspective. I got carried away and decided to draw a whole bunch of objects around me. This is another perspective drawing. I actually started to work on the feet first, and I did a sketch in light blue pen, but it ended up making them pop, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Here, this is when I discovered the Loomis method for drawing portraits, and this is when I really started to improve my portraiture and really got the hang of proportions in a face. These are just some portraits I found online on Pinterest. This next page, I decided to go ham with my ballpoint pen and made a realistic ballpoint pen portrait.
Terrible things started happening when you walked away, so that's why I stay right here.
Here I have some math class doodles that I decided to glue into my sketchbook. And then this side I challenged myself to not use the color brown for the portrait, but in the end I used a little bit of it to touch up some of the skin. This next page, I just did a little storyboarding, but honestly, I am not too proud of this spread, so let's move on. Again, here I'm just practicing with ballpoint pen. I think that's supposed to be me. Then these portraits, I just found the references from Earth's World on Instagram, and then these ones from Pinterest. This next spread on the left, that is a self-portrait, and then on the right, just some doodles. I decided to make the mole on my cheek a heart shape, if you could notice that. This next spread, I absolutely love. I just took my ballpoint pen and just started sketching perspective. Obviously, it needs some work, but they're not too bad. Here I was just practicing using a tutorial, going through the Loomis method again. This portrait here I did in ballpoint pen, and then I got a new matte sealant, so I decided to test it out, but unfortunately it made all the ink bleed. Here again, I just experimented with different color schemes, and then I decided to draw some people from life on the train, and also touched up this portrait and added some color to it. This next spread, I decided to draw some landscapes. I actually saw on Jess Karp's channel where she used Google Earths as a drawing reference, and I honestly had so much fun drawing these landscapes. Here are just some more ballpoint pen sketches. And then here was a trip that I took to Smith Falls, and I just decided to draw the building they had in the city. This next spread is where I decided to experiment a little bit with some watercolor and acrylic paints. I decided to paint some Studio Ghibli scenes and then finally a John Singer Sargent portrait. And here is where I started Inktober 2023. This was actually the first time I completed this challenge, so I was super happy. For this drawing, I found the reference photo on Google and I just decided to copy it in my sketchbook as I absolutely loved the whole style of it. this next spread, I really took my time with these two drawings. I really wanted to capture a delicate feel for both of the drawings, so that is why you just see me hatching in one direction. If you'd like to see the whole Inktober series here on my channel, you can just go to my page and I will have all the videos up in a playlist. For this pen portrait, I decided not to use a pencil underneath and to just let loose and experiment with different line variations. Again, for this portrait, I did the same thing with just going straight in with pen.
Feeling like it's always just the same shit. Why they always gotta say shit. I hate it. Look at you, you're stretching like elastic. They should call you Mr. Fucking Fantastic.
This is probably my favorite spread in my sketchbook. For these portraits here, I really just wanted to experiment with different color schemes using my trusty 10-colored ballpoint pen. Here are just some more ballpoint pen sketches. And then this portrait I did in graphite pencil. I actually filmed the whole process, but I never got around to editing it. So if you guys would like to see that, let me know in the comments. This next drawing I did in the car ride home late at night, and I am super happy with the way it turned out. Honestly, this would probably be like a close second. Here, just some more drawings from imagination. And also, I drew a man from life on the bus. On this page, I decided to draw the people I saw on the bus. As you can see, it was very crowded that day, and I had to draw pretty quickly because the bus ride was only about 20 minutes. Here is when I actually got my gouache paints in the mail, and I was so excited to test them out. Here are just some more drawings from life. I saw some people and I decided to capture the moment in my sketchbook of them sharing a nice discussion. These are just some more people that I saw on the bus and the train. And then above is a perspective drawing that I did of this little corridor, and the lighting was just immaculate. Here I did some thumbnailing for a math cover book. Here is my gouache painting that I did to test out my gouache paints. And if you can tell, it's a little Studio Ghibli inspired. Coming close to the end, I decided to write down some notes of what I want my next sketchbook to focus on. And then here I was just sketching from the heart, just sketching whatever I wanted. I got inspired by some 30s and 20s styles. This spread I absolutely love. I just let loose with my different pens. And here I was drawing the anatomy of some skulls. And then I decided to draw the corpse bride. Here I was focusing more on perspective again and 3D objects. And finally, this is the very last page. I decided to go in with my colored pencils and do a piece of a hand with the quote, "Take my hand," as a good start to my next sketchbook. And that brings this video to an end. As you can see, this sketchbook is pretty worn down. Here are just my stickers. I really hope you guys enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed making it, and to really just look back on all these sketches, it was just a great experience. Thanks for watching. Bye.